It's Cardboard Time episode number 89, and I'm your host, Arwen Kathke. In the car with me today is my fiance, Allie.
Hello.
So, we are on our way back from Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio. We went down on Wednesday and we're coming back on Saturday. A little bit more of an abbreviated trip than I'm used to, but with the hotel prices and with upcoming travel and such, we're trying to conserve a little bit of money. And we got Gen Con coming up in like a month and a half, so it's not like we're going to be missing out on too much. But we did want to tell you about our adventures during the week. You know, we are heading back a little bit early. We do have a little bit of a sick boy back at our friend Matt and Paulina's house. Charlie's not feeling the best, so we're going to go pick him up, and then we're just going to rest and recuperate ourselves. So I think all of us are just going to have some much needed R&R and hang out. So again, apologies like usual for the audio. Unfortunately, I don't have the greatest setup right now. I'm kind of holding the Zoom recording device in my left hand, and in my right hand, I have my notes. And, it's Ohio Road, so you get what you get. But you'll like this for some reason, so let's start with Wednesday. We did head down on Wednesday. We had a little bit of work to do on Wednesday during the day, and then headed down in the afternoon after dropping Charlie off. We did get our badges. First thing when we got there, we dropped stuff off at the hotel, went and got our badges, and we basically queued up in the line and saw our friends Jennifer and Scott, who are listeners of the podcast, and they just happened to bring bagels and cream cheese with them for us, which was amazing. Definitely helped us survive some of the mornings. Y'all know con mornings, or if you don't, they're very hectic. You're kind of scrambling for food and sustenance. If you haven't planned anything out, it does kind of require, some careful consideration, the food situation at a convention. So the bagels, being able to take them into the room and have them there was kind of a life's-end for us.
They were delicious.
They were fantastic. 2 different varieties. One was a savory and then one was a sweet. Both were fantastic. So big thanks to Jennifer and Scott. We'll be talking about them in a little bit as well. So there's some foreshadowing for y'all. So that was the badge line, and once we got out, it was a very quick process. I think Origins has it down really well with the self-scan. It does move relatively quickly. You just get your QR code, you scan it, the badge prints out for you, and you're good to go.
And your tickets.
And your tickets, yeah. And some people, like Jennifer and Scott, had a huge amount of tickets as well. It would be nice to see like a digital system where you'd be able to show a QR code with your tickets and not have to print out so much, but it is what it is. It is definitely a better system than in years past, and I do definitely like the coordination of how fast it moves. So as soon as we got out of the line, we did run into Nathan Thornton, and we chatted for a little while, and it was good to see him as always. Got a little update on one of his games that he is pitching to publishers right now that I'm very excited for. So yeah, it was great running into him. So like within the first 15 minutes of being at Origins, it was already a good day. So I was very grateful for that. And then once we got back from the hotel, we got back just in time to do a little freshening up. It was ridiculously hot during our time down at Origins. Stepping outside was like hitting a brick wall of heat, and you just felt every bit of it. It was hot, it was humid, kind of miserable outside, so it was a good thing that we were indoors at a board game convention. So we headed out to Chris's event, Chris High, and he held an event at Jackie O's. It was in direct conflict with the media first look, which unfortunately we didn't get notice in time. And give me 1 second. I'm gonna pause. Well, we're back. Just a little bit of an interruption there. So we did have the event at Jackie O's that Chris was putting on. Again, unfortunately, it was in direct conflict with the first look, just because we didn't get enough notice in time to make sure that the schedule aligned. But I was really glad that I went to Chris's event. Food was on point. There was a little place called Good People with multiple O's, that it was like this little window inside of Jackie O's that you went to, and you place your order on your phone, and then you just picked it up at this little tiny window that was probably like 8 feet, or felt like 8 feet off the ground.
Yes.
It was just really kind of bizarre.
It was above my head.
Well, most stuff is above your head.
Yes.
Including instructions for board games. But that was a fantastic time. Really good food there. If you are in the Columbus area, I definitely recommend checking that out. Jackie O's had some good beer selection as well, and I got a couple while I was there. So we did get to play a few games and meet some people. Got to see Darren from Dirtle Games, which I will get into something from him in a minute. And then Tori Brown as well, and met a whole bunch of other new people that came over too. So the first game that I wanted to talk about was Fuji Flush. We played that. It was a very interesting game where basically you were trying to shed your hand, and you were trying to basically make it a whole round without somebody beating your cards. The really neat trick to it was the fact that if multiple people played the same value card, they kind of added up, and you were able to kind of protect yourself that way if you were getting in on a round of that, or potentially take somebody else out that had a very strong number, but you were trying to basically gang up on them and make sure that they didn't cycle all the way through to get rid of their card. So I found that like really interesting. That was a fun game. Not sure if I necessarily need to own it, but I'm glad that I played it. I'll gladly play that again. Fuego was the Dirtle game that I want to talk about. Now this is going to be one that Keymaster is putting out that will be on crowdfunding later this year, I believe. It is top to bottom a fantastic production. The box for it is like a matchbox. Those old school ones that you pull everything, you basically pull the little tray out. You have the little dip that are kind of not UV spotting, but basically the little bumps that you would strike a match on. And yeah, it was a very solid game. I really liked the re-theme. I played it way back when it was Match, and I think this is a perfect theme for it. Really fun trick taker. I think a lot of people are going to like it. There's a lot of unique things that it does as well, so I'll definitely be talking more about that soon. And probably one of my highlights, when we get into our favorite games of the convention, that was definitely one of them. That was a favorite of mine. And speaking of favorites of mine as well, Wine Cellar, I got to demo with Andrew Stiles, who was the designer of the game. He got a hold of me and basically said, hey, would you like to demo this at some point? And I said, are you coming to Origins? Why don't you come over to this event and hang out? And he did. Had a great time. So we got to play some games with him and demo Wine Cellar. I had backed it on Kickstarter already. 25th Century had a Kickstarter recently for 4 games. I was originally going to back all 4, and then I backed down to just Wine Cellar because I, kind of reevaluated everything with Gen Con coming up and planning for future expenses. Really wanted to kind of taper that back a little bit and really get what I wanted. Very glad that I did. This is a very, very fun auction game where you're trying to basically collect your preferred type of wine from different regions. You get bonus points. And then also there are numbers from 1 to 8. And then depending on the round, or basically the slot that it's in your wine cellar, it's worth different points. The trick here is the fact that you can't play in the middle of your cards. So once you establish kind of what your wine cellar looks like, you can either put it on top or on the bottom. And you want it to be at the right age. So the points decrease as you move away from that optimum age. So it's a very interesting mix of what exactly do I want, how much do I bid for it, etc. It's a really clever game. I think people are really going to like it quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to it coming in as well. Plays a large player count too, so very excited to get that into my hands for sure when that delivers. And then finally, 6 NIMT is a classic game that we got to play. A lot of people call it Take 6. It's had multiple re-themes and re-releases. It's an old German game. I haven't played it in a long time, but always really enjoy it. Trying to avoid collecting cards. And yeah, just another great time. Really glad that I got to play that as well. Had some good conversation and chatted and hung out with a lot of really good people there. The vibes were immaculate. And after that, we pretty much went right back to the hotel and got some sleep because we were tired and exhausted and needed some rest. So, Allie, anything stand out from Wednesday, or?
Like the really long cards. So I'll be excited to play that when it comes in.
Yeah, the design of the cards on it is really, really good.
And the box for Fwig.
It's really chef's kiss. I'm excited for people to be able to see that. Yeah, and again, really good re-theming on that. I got to play an early copy of it earlier this year, back when it was still Match, and very, very glad that this got this re-theme. So Thursday morning, I got to get up early. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, despite going to bed a little bit early. Didn't get a whole lot of sleep on Wednesday night, and got up Thursday ready to go, get into the hall, and get some early stuff. As media, we got to go in an hour early, so that does help kind of get some of your purchases that you want pretty desperately, which at Origins, to be honest, isn't all that much as it used to be anyways. A lot of companies are waiting until Gen Con to put their most recent stuff out, but there are some companies. Arcane Wonders is one that does try to put out new games at every convention, just to kind of get that hype up and make everybody feel like they have something fun to anticipate and look forward to. I think the one this year was Super Kawaii Pet, which I did pick up in the hall. I also noticed that Restoration had 20 copies of the Kickstarter edition of Thunder Road Vendetta. One game that I've been holding out on for quite a while and didn't get in on the Kickstarter because I was kind of waffling back and forth. And this was one that I finally decided I had heard enough really good things about it and decided to pick that up. So I'm very interested to play it. I think it's going to be a great, basically Cardboard Fest, which is the old Americon for those of you who have been listening for a while, the home convention that I do. I think it's going to be a really, really good game for that. I also picked up some Nita Vetlier upgrades. I am looking forward to playing with those upgraded art chips as well, and just the play mat. It's a really, really solid game. I played it again recently a couple of times, and we just really like it. Allie enjoys it, so something that gets to the table that still has some really fun decisions and really crunchy thought behind it, I think is always welcome. And that's something that you want to invest in. You want to make sure that those games that do get played, that you really do like, get that investment and that love. And then Gueda is a 25th century game about umbrellas. They did have the deluxe edition. That was kind of one of the new games that I was looking forward to. I did think that it was going to be completely color vision friendly. However, with the player colors, I'm not exactly so sure about that anymore. We're going to have to see once that comes into play whether or not the player colors are going to make that big of a difference. But that was a little bit disappointed because, the umbrellas themselves are different colors, but they are very well double coated. And, unfortunately, the player colors didn't have that double coating to them. So I do think that might cause some issues. But it's a gorgeous looking game. It's a little bit of an educational game as well, based on a art installation project in Portugal. So I'm looking forward to it. The rules seem pretty straightforward and simple. And then Witches as well. This was a game that on my live stream right before Origin, Allie basically typed in the chat that she was looking forward to it. It is a solo only game. I'm interested to see it. I love the art. It's got kind of like a Darkest Dungeon vibe to it. And it is based off of a existing system. I can't remember the name exactly off my head at this point, but I'm looking forward to playing that and putting that on the side table. I think that'll be a good side table candidate, and then maybe be able to teach Allie how to play that as well. And then finally, the last pickup from that haul was the Ultimatch game. That was a fireside game I was very interested in. It's kind of like Pyramid Solitaire, but it has some extra fun things thrown in there. You can pass players' cards. You are basically running out of cards unless you make an Ultimatch. And the way that you do that is you have a pyramid of cards that you're trying to get rid of. You have to basically play a card that either matches the color of one of them, matches the number of one of them, adds to that, or subtracts to that, or if you have like primary colors in your hand, you can mix them as well to add or subtract along, to make that match. The Ultimatch is a match that matches both color and the number, through addition, subtraction, etc. And you're going to need to add or subtract that because no two colors are going to be the same. So you have to be very clever about how you do that. Players can pass a card secretly to each other. They cannot talk about what that card is, so there is a little bit of that interesting gameplay to see how well you can help your teammates out. So we had fun with that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit when we played it. Actually, I'll just mention it now. So we played it wrong the first time because we didn't necessarily know the intricacies of the rules. We were drawing afterwards after every match. It wasn't really that fun. And then we said, oh, yeah, this is probably kind of a big thing that we missed. And once we did kind of figure that out, it was definitely much better. We had a lot of fun with it. And I think for $10, it was a great pickup. It's $10 is kind of a hard to come by, price point in games these days. And I do, kind of find myself trending towards those smaller box games, the ones that are easier to teach, that I can get to the table, but still have some very interesting decisions. And I think this fits nicely into that box. I also got to demo, after everybody kind of filed in, I got to demo the Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig. This was one that I was very excited to play, and I'm kind of glad that I did the demo on it. I did wait a little while because it was a longer demo, and I like the core concept of the game. For those of you who have played the Castles of Mad King Ludwig, you are still dealing with those shapes. You're trying to build out this castle, but it's more of a flip and write style. The sheets that you're drawing all these rooms on are translucent, and you're going to be drafting room shapes, which you will be then taking and drawing those shapes through the translucent paper and basically tracing them, which I thought was a fantastic little mechanic. It's very innovative. I haven't seen anybody do that, and really, really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, there were some color vision issues for me. There were a couple of visibility issues in general that I ran into, and probably nothing that I couldn't necessarily fix on my own, but not necessarily the kind of game that I want to pay $80 for and then have to fix that on my own as well. So I would probably play it again, probably play a full game if somebody did want to play that at some point if they had it, but not one that I feel like I need to own in my collection. After that, I met up with Ellie, our good friend Ellie from up in Cleveland, and we got to play quite a few games with her throughout the night. The first one was circling back with Chris and playing Pirates of Maracaibo. That is out at Gen Con by Capstone. I had fun with it. I think that there's a lot of really unique points to it. It is kind of an indirect sequel to just straight up Maracaibo. Not a fan of the theme. You know, it's pirates in the Caribbean kind of thing, you know, and not great that way. I wish we could get away from that a little bit, but the gameplay itself was very, very sound, and I had a really good time with that. Lots of very fun mechanics that introduced. We got some food at North Market. We got some fantastic dumplings. Do you remember the name of the place?
You can check. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll have to put it in the show notes for everybody, but if you're visiting North Market, there's a little dumpling place that is, I think, right next to the pho place.
Yeah.
And
we got the sampler.
Yeah, the sampler was quite good. We also got some hot chicken takeover, as you do when you're at North Market. I was a little bit disappointed in the spice level. I thought the chicken tenders were fine, but not necessarily the best I've had from them. And it always takes a while. I don't know why, but at least it was fresh. So I mean, the taste was fine. And then, of course, we got Jenny's.
As you do.
As you do. Allie, what was on your cone? Do you remember?
I was basic, and I just did chocolate.
You just did chocolate?
Yeah.
I did the sparkling cherry pie, which had like Sichuan peppers in it.
Yeah.
They're known for like numbing, like you have in mapo tofu. And then the double dough as well, which was also very good. So always pleased by Jenny's. Also thought about our friend Olivia, you know, while we were there, because she goes crazy over Jenny's, and you know, we missed her. So then we came back to the convention center for a little bit. We did get a little bit of an early bedtime as well on Thursday night, because we did want to be up for Friday. We played Super Kawaii Pets. That was Arcane Wonders. So we did get that out to the table. And we played Ultimatch, which we already talked about. Super Kawaii Pets was really fun. The biggest standouts there were the cards that basically flip. You were trying to take your sad shelter pets that had different needs, whether it be food or medicine or just, you know, time and attention kind of thing. And you were trying to provide those needs to flip over, you know, the shelter pet from sad to happy. The art changed. It had a really unique UV spotting on the back as well, so you got to know that they were extra happy and, you know, glad that you provided this for them. So it was a really cute game. It had a little bit of chaining to it, which I wasn't expecting, and kind of figured out maybe a quarter of the way through the game that was a very interesting element to it. But it was very fun. Very light game, easy to teach, and a small, once again, small card game. Deck box that'll easily fit in a purse or a backpack. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. Allie, I know that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm already attracted to it because it was so cute. But it was really fun to play. Definitely something you just throw in your bag and, you know, take when you want something quick.
So that was our Thursday. We got some rest for a very big Friday. On Friday, we had Scott's panel, our friend Scott Rice Snow, who I talked about earlier. His panel that he did, I got to the convention center early, on punishing your players with terrain, so like D&D terrain, and that kind of thing. So like how you can impact your players with natural elements like rock slides and tidal waves and things like that, and then how to handle them. And Scott has done a lot of work in this field. He's a geologist, if I'm not mistaken, retired from Ball State, and he has done a lot of work. I've mentioned his book in the past. It's very interesting and filled with like a lot of really nerdy stuff. So his talk was really fascinating. I'm glad that I went. I learned a bunch of different stuff, and I think if you were a DM in that room, you were walking away with some new tips and tricks on just how to mess with your players a little bit. There were some evil laughs going on in there as well. So after that, I went down and I had to pick up Buttons and Bugs. They had mentioned that after talking with Jennifer and Scott. They mentioned the side table and they said, oh, Gloomhaven would be great for that. And I just said, you know what, for $20, I'm going to pick up Buttons and Bugs. We also got a copy for our friend Matt for watching Charlie and dealing with him for the week. And then met up with Ray of the Op fame and walked around with her for a while. It was great catching up with her and just chilling and, just not really having anything to do, just wandering and having a coffee and whatnot and catching up. So haven't seen her. I think we saw her at PAX, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, probably at PAX Unplugged.
Yeah. So in the meantime, we also met up with Charlotte and a whole bunch of folks that, we just, you know how it is at conventions, or maybe you don't. You just keep running into people that you know, and picking up people dropping off, whatnot. So that was a lot of fun. Also, there was a little section in the back, which I like to check out some of the games from. One of the more notable ones was Pirates of the High Teas. That is going to be from Emily of Pinkhawk Games. She's putting that one out. Very interesting take on the whole pirate genre, where you're trying to deliver different treats and whatnot to your captain. So a very fun, unique take on the genre. Interesting worker placement that's going on, as things that you can do to kind of get around some card draw issues, which are kind of typical to that genre of game where you're trying to do order fulfillment. So I'm kind of excited for that one. I definitely want to have her on and have her talk about that, because in addition to that, she is the designer of the upcoming Knitting Circle game, which is the sequel to Calico. So she's doing a lot of good work, and everything's kind of coming at once, where she's got her own Kickstarter, and then in addition to that, she's got Knitting Circle coming out, which I think is going to be pretty big. In the same area was Kat Dreyer from Dreyer Inc. with the game BubbleNet, which is kind of a multiplayer solitaire game about filling up your whale's belly with a bunch of fish and then trying to basically manipulate the fish so that you can get to them and eat them up. And I backed this one. I didn't initially back it, but after the sales pitch and after seeing it, I definitely did. I've been seeing some stuff about it on social media as well, so that did help. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. It is currently on Kickstarter, and I think it's going to be pretty good. I think it's like 75% funded, or was at the time that I backed it. So has a little bit to go, but
Go back it.
And then finally in the same area was Ashwin's Chicken Fried Dice. So this is a roll and write about plucking dice and placing dice. And roll and write style with some pretty unique elements on how you treat the dice and split them up and that kind of thing. Does a lot there was a little bit more than, I was able to necessarily take in on the board, so it looks like it's going to be a little bit more involved of a roll and write, but also a very unique name, and hopefully what's going to be a really good game. So I'm going to be looking to back that once that comes out as well. So we like the small, the unique games that you don't necessarily get to see a whole lot of coverage for. I think that some of them need some love as well, and happy to provide that. So then we met up with Bree from Arcane Wonders, one of my favorite people to meet up with at a convention. She's just such a warm person, have a lovely conversation. She always has her yearbook with her, which I think is an amazing idea. And like this year's yearbook that she did, we actually got to take a selfie and then put it in the yearbook as well, which was a lot of fun, and I think a pretty cool idea. Preserving those memories and being able to see those later, I think really decreases on the con funk that you wind up in the next week after you get home from the convention and you don't get to see your friends from the convention and that kind of thing. So we did get to chat about some of Arcane Wonders' upcoming releases. The ones I'm really most excited about are Foundations of Metropolis, which is a re-implementation and retheme of Foundations of Rome without the high price point. And I really commend them for doing that because it's an Emerson Matsuuchi game that I've really wanted to get my hands on, but not necessarily everybody is willing to pay that really high price point of getting in on that super deluxe edition. And it's a gorgeous game, it's really well produced, but sometimes people need something a little bit more basic to sink their teeth into, and then if they really like it, they can save up, get that deluxe edition, or just be okay with the regular cardboard and be able to share that experience with their friends. I think making a game a little bit more affordable at any price point is going to be a good thing and a good direction. So again, kudos for doing that. Another game that I saw from them that I'm really excited about is Medicine. That is about, I wanted to say it was Northern Russian art and some pretty unique mechanics where you're trying to score patterns of tiles that you flipped over. So you basically choose a grouping, you're going to take those tiles, a grouping of a certain type of tile that's called out, and you're going to flip that over, and then you're trying to score for the first half of the game ones that are flipped over to the backside, and then the second half of the game you're trying to flip those back over to their original side and score them again. So a really kind of interesting take on the different scoring conditions. You basically pick 2 of 6 symbols, and the scoring conditions are all labeled with these symbols. You get a different scoring mix every single time. They all work together pretty well, and you only take a certain amount of those cards in addition to that you get to mix together. So it should provide for a lot of replayability. The artwork on it is gorgeous, and I'm looking forward to checking that one out. I do believe that one is closer to a Gen Con release too. And then I am going home with a copy of Aquatica, which I'm looking very much forward to playing. I've heard a lot of really great things about Aquatica. We got to see it set up on table at Chris's event on Wednesday, and immediately we were like, oh, we gotta check this game out. So looking forward to those. They've got a couple of other small box games that are coming out too, in addition to some heavier games that I'll probably be talking about, including re-implementation of Craftwagon, which looks very, very interesting. You know me and my action selection and rondel love. So looks like a very solid lineup from Arcane Wonders that's coming up. In addition to that, I got to go back and hang out with Ray a little bit longer and play Gnome Hollow. That is the Ob Gen Con release. And there is a lot going on to love about this game. The story behind it, if you haven't heard about it, look up Gnome Hollow and basically the designer's story, where he was using the art that he was creating for this game and these concepts as therapy for recovery from a condition they had. I think it might have been from a car accident. It was really fascinating to hear that. Mechanically, it has some really unique concepts too, including magnets in the board. So you can turn your tiles over, or your basically your player board over, and all of your tiles are going to stay in place, which is so cool and really fun. In addition to that, you've got Carcassonne-like game with a little bit of a central market where you're trying to sell what you collect in these rings that you're making in this Carcassonne tile laying game. There's a lot to love that's going on there, and then after that there's even more layers on top of that. So I think they sing well together. It's probably going to be a game that I need to pick up, and it's probably going to be a favorite of the year of mine, just based on the early gameplay of it. It was very satisfying and a lot of fun to play with Ray as well. And then finally, Layers. We got to meet up with Sean from KTBG, and we were shown Layers, which I've described before as kind of like Battleship and Dungeon Crawl, which doesn't sound like it goes together, but lo and behold, it goes together extremely well. You're going to draw out a dungeon and basically put up walls and traps and monsters that your opponent is going to have to encounter. And your opponent is doing the same thing. So they're building a dungeon, you're building a dungeon, and then you have to go through and explore each other's dungeons. And it kind of harkens back a little bit to the old days of the, single screen, map out manually, dungeon crawls that you had on PC that you were mapping your way through. And we both had a ton of fun with it.
Available on Kickstarter.
Yeah, so that'll be coming to Kickstarter later on in the year. And the very cool thing that I think is going to set it apart the most is the fact that all the content is going to basically come in these little modular boxes. So you teach the base game, which already has a lot of fun and excitement in that, and then you're going to expand it out by your next subsequent gameplays, unlocking these boxes and playing with these new little expansions that you're going to get to open up and explore. And I think once the game kind of gets to the state where everything is opened, it's going to be a pretty epic game with doors that lock, that you have to go find a key for. Basically all of your different dungeon tropes are going to be involved in that. But one thing that Sean did note is that it's almost as equally gratifying to watch the game being played as it is to play it. I don't necessarily know about that, but it was definitely fun to play it, and one that I think we'll be backing, come later this year.
I won, by the way.
Allie did win. No, Allie, you got out, but you didn't win because I had more points.
What?
Yeah. You had like 8 points because you didn't get any treasures.
But I got out of the dungeon.
Yeah, but I got more treasure, so I win.
I must have ignored that part.
Yep.
Well,
Again,
my
rules overhead.
My dungeon was better.
Your dungeon was pretty cool. I will say that. So that was all for the haul on Friday. We did get dinner at Buca di Beppo with Ellie's new coworkers, which was a lot of fun. We had a ton of fun with trying to avoid Parmesan because Tony does not have a good time with Parmesan.
Yes.
So that was a lot of fun. We breathed the labyrinth of Buca di Beppo and avoided getting lost in the cavernous depths of of the Buka, which it was kind of crazy. Just the maze that you had to go through to get through this place, but the food was quite good. It was certainly a lot. As those of you who have been to Buca di Beppo know, they certainly do give you quite a bit. And then after that, we returned to the convention hall. We got to play Nana, which was re-implemented as Trio. If you're gonna get this, get the Nana version. It's way cuter. You got little animals and such, and it's just better. So this one is about remembering who basically has what. You can ask a player to show their lowest card or their highest card, and there are some cards that are in the middle, and you're looking to make a set of 3, and then you're looking to make 3 sets of those, or depending on the set that you have, if you have a set that matches with the prescribed sets at the bottom, you can win with 2 cards, or if you get a set of 7s, you win instantly. And because you're asking players about their top and their bottom card, the 7s are the hardest to get. So that's how that works. I would like to try to find a copy of this. I think it's a great icebreaker game. We were just talking about that today and how well it does at breaking the ice. And I would definitely like to get a copy of Nana.
I think they got it on eBay.
That would make sense. In addition, we got to play the cast one-piece game called Bento Panic, which I certainly wasn't expecting to like as much as I did. I was expecting a much lighter game than it was. And it's light, but there's a lot of really unique, fun things that you can do with it. Kind of like a rock, paper, scissors in a way, in that your actions work, so you can either go in and steal from somebody's food pile before they eat it that you really need. You can eat the food that's in front of you, or you can go and grab food from this bag. Or you can block your neighbors from stealing from you completely. So that was very interesting, a lot of fun. You know, a lot of people would call that like a beer and pretzels kind of game, where you don't really have to think. You can have fun, laughing with your friends and that. I think the game that kind of filled that need, previously was Finger Guns at High Noon. I happen to like this better. I think that this was a better game, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was a lot of fun, and definitely looking forward to that coming out. I know a lot of people are looking forward to it for the One Piece theme on it.
Yep. It was just announced this past Monday, so keep an eye out for that to release at Gen Con.
Now, people super excited about that, and also we got to play Captain Sonar, which I got rid of for the very reason that Allie is groaning. It's a loud game. It just doesn't really resonate with me, but we had friends that wanted to play it.
I've never been so stressed in my life.
It is a stressful game. It's a cool concept. Like, it does a lot of different things. I'm not a huge real-time game fan. I probably should have told Ascadelia about that earlier.
Sure.
Like, hey, no real-time games my way. But it was fun. We had a good time. Sometimes you play those games that your friends want to play. You still have a good time. You still enjoy it because of the company that you're with. And glad that I played it. Not disappointed that I sold it earlier today, which I'll talk about in a minute. Then we ended up the night going to Mikey's with Josh Schwartz. It was about 150 degrees in Mikey's late night slice, but we did get some really good pizza.
It was very good.
It was a very good stuff. We got to hang out with Josh before he heads up. He just accepted a position with Chip Theory Games, and he'll be heading up to Minnesota. So we'll definitely miss him. He was a Ohio person, but we never got to really see him much anyways, because they were always busy. Just life gets in the way, and
That's what conventions are for.
That's what conventions are for, and we'll probably see them at about the same frequency as we did before.
Yes.
So it was great to walk back to the hotel with them and see them and partake in that and get to complain about the heat.
And we saw the biggest group of rats. It was terrifying.
Yeah, outside of
a
restaurant. We won't name the restaurant. We won't put them on blast, but
there were so many rats outside.
There was
terrifying.
It was really terrifying. Like, I've never seen that big of a group of rats in my entire life.
I've never seen like a rat in person. But
I've been to New York City. I mean, it's hard to avoid that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that was Friday night, and then getting into Saturday real quick. Did the math trade this morning. It was hectic. We had to be there at 9 a.m. I will say that the math trade has had improvements made to it. So there was a sign-in sheet. You got to see where people were either roaming or they were standing. I was definitely standing because I had a lot of games to get rid of, including Captain Sonar. And it's always an adventure there. If you haven't seen like a math trade or flea market trade at a convention, it's fun to watch. Maybe not so much participate in, but the aftermath was great. In addition to that, went down to the convention hall after breakfast. I would recommend going to Fame's Diner. Chicken and eggs was always kind of our staple, and
Fame's was way better.
Fame's was way better, and the staff there was really nice to us as well. Finest Fish was a game that we picked up once we got back to the convention hall. I've heard a lot of really good buzz about it. Charlotte's mentioned it. Jamie, I believe, has it, and she has talked about it at length. I wanted to pick up that game, so we did, and got a really nice bag. Like, last night had some really amazing bags, like tote bags that they were putting their games in.
For being a free tote bag.
Yeah.
It is very high quality with a really long strap.
Yep.
I would have paid money for it.
I would have probably paid money for it. Then we got to meet up with Ascadelia, who is now working at All Play, and talk to her about some of their new upcoming releases. Her fashion is on point. Let me just say, like, her hair's on point. Her skirts are always epic.
Stunning.
Her hair was just magnificent. Like, mine was up in a ponytail and like whatever. Hers was just like perfect, even though she said it was a mess. It wasn't true. And then her earrings were, basically possums that were angy and epic and amazing. So, yeah, if you don't know who Ascadelia is, go check her out. Go follow her. She is outstanding and a wonderful human being. The game that really stood out to me the most from All Play was Lure. That's going to be coming out very soon from All Play. It's a dice wagering game that has a fishing theme to it that I found was really interesting. The dice that you wager is basically the amount of dice that you would get to roll, but you have 3 fish that are out on the board. The amount of fish that you get to catch is based on the roll that you have. So, if you wager a lower amount of dice, you get to roll first, and you have first dibs at the fish, including like clearing out the entire row of fish. Like, you could go and roll high based off of your low wager of dice that you want to roll, and just clear everything out. And then the next players would get, a little bit of a consolation prize. So it was really interesting. Ascadelia even mentioned, like, hey, I wasn't really interested in this until seeing it. And then I understood what it was about, and definitely more interested in it after seeing the gameplay for that. So it was good meeting up with her. In addition, we met up with Cord Sakmar, our good friend from Thames and Cosmos. If you haven't listened to that episode, go look up that episode where we talked to Cord about the fall of Ohio and everything. She's just fun to talk to, and I know that I say this a lot, but a genuinely wonderful person. there's so many wonderful people in this industry, and I'm glad that I get to chat with them and have the opportunity to just chill. We went back by Crimson Cup and just hung out. The game that Thames and Cosmos is coming out with that I'm really most interested in is Nunatak, or Nunatak, or however you want to produce it.
Nunatak.
Nunatak.
Yeah, Nunstack.
Yeah, we're still getting clarification on how to say it.
I don't think it's Nunatak.
I'm pretty sure it's not. But this game was very, very interesting. That you draft a card from a central line, get to place your colored player piece, which I didn't have any trouble with the colors, fortunately. You get to place your colored player piece out on a corresponding icon to the card that you draft. The symbols on the card that you draft also correspond to a set collection piece of some sort, so different symbols score differently, based on how many you get or how many your opponents have. So there's a wide variety of that. And in addition, once you build a square of 4, there's a little area control game that kind of goes on where you're evaluating who put in the most, pieces into that square. And that was really fascinating. Once you do that, you place another piece down on top of that. So it's got this 3D element where you're building up the board, which I thought was really cool. It's got such a great table presence to it. It's designed by King Klenko, who did Fuse. I'm a really big fan of his work and have always enjoyed his games quite a bit. So I'm really looking forward to that one. If you get a chance, check that out. Take a look at it. Just for the time, I'm going to be posting some videos and got some footage on that. So we said our goodbyes. We're now headed home. We're almost to Matt and Paulina's house, to pick up a small boy and give him scritches and cuddles and take him home where hopefully he can recover a little bit. So I did want to ask, and Allie is here with me. I wanted to ask her what, her top games of the convention were that she's most excited about.
I would have to say I'm most excited about Layers. For me, Kids Table board games, never misses. I think every game of theirs I've played, I've thoroughly enjoyed. What is the Capybara game they also have coming out that we
Capybaras, yes.
Yeah, we didn't play that at Origins. We played that at PAX Unplugged.
Yep.
But that's the next one of theirs I'm also excited about. So, Layers, for sure. And then I think Nana was just really fun. I would say, I'm going to call it Papagino because I don't know the actual name of the game. What is
Papagino?
Papagino is like the go-to game in our house. It's like you just, you keep it in your bag. I would say if we can get our hands on it, Nana would be right there beside it.
Wow.
Yeah?
Which is surprising because you don't like memory games.
Okay, I'm really bad at the game, but I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, you had a good time with it.
Yeah. We'll pick up Papagino.
Yes.
Just gonna say that.
She's a Papagino evangelist along with Olivia, so.
Yeah.
I would say for me, the top 3 for me would probably, first of all, I think I would agree. I think Layers is probably the first top game that I'm really, really most excited about. I think that's going to be something special. It's very unique. It's very different. I do think that people are going to like that quite a bit. And, it just has a different experience to it. Second, I would say was probably Fuego. And I'm excited for it to come out. I'm excited for it to be, fully announced. But the production value, the gameplay of it is just wonderful. Played it twice now, enjoyed it twice now, and it's basically, in its last form, I was basically telling Darren, listen, I would buy this. I think you're good as is, and it's just gotten better over time. And then I think third for me would probably be Wine Cellar. I'm really looking forward to getting Wine Cellar. I've already backed it, but very glad that I played it. It does help to have the designer in the box sometimes, but I will say that it's a very unique concept. A lot of things going on that are very fun. And I think people are really going to enjoy that. It's a very different game as well. And I think that's kind of what I'm looking for at this point. I'm looking for something that's going to do something different, that's going to be exciting and bring something different to the table. So, well, everybody, it has been a great car ride. Thank you we are going to sign off for now, but I will be doing, or attempting to do, an episode next week with some reviews of the games that I picked up at Origins. So some of the games that you heard about here, hopefully I do get to do full reviews on, and we'll resume our normal schedule until Gen Con time, which I will probably do the same thing, delay until after Gen Con, do the ride home recording, and then, do an episode the week after. So, all right, thank you for listening, and we'll see you around the table in a week for another episode 90 of Cardboard Time.